So if you're stuck in a pattern that is on and off with your partner, maybe it is that you're the chaser, just the same as I was. I'm going to give you a real life example of how this might be playing out and exactly how to stop it. Hi, I'm Amy and welcome to my channel. This channel is all about merging spirituality and psychology so you can manifest your dream relationships. And in today's video, I'm going to talk about how an anxious attached and a dismissive avoidant on-off pattern might be playing out for you. And this is exactly what happened to me. So I'm going to use my relationship as a real life example so you can see exactly how these patterns play out, how to avoid them and how to heal them, so that you can start to actually enjoy your relationship and move forward towards your goal. So the majority of the people that I speak to are anxiously attached. And this is no judgment at all. This is exactly what I was like. And the anxious attached individual tends to be the chaser in the relationship. And the reason for this is because they've got such a profound fear of abandonment. What they do is they will do anything at any cost to make sure that that doesn't happen. So as we've discussed in previous videos last week, some common patterns with anxious attached are people pleasing, codependency, but all of these patterns are there to protect them from abandonment. And I used to do this as well. I would, in conflict, tell my partner exactly what I knew he needed to hear so that the argument would stop, and therefore I would avoid abandonment. But what I was really doing is abandoning all of these other needs that I had. I was abandoning my need to feel seen, heard and understood, which is a massive need for anxious attached people. And once we had the stability back again, I would keep a lid on it, I would keep my mouth shut, and then it wouldn't take long for this pattern to re-emerge again, where an argument would start. But it would be worse because all of the things that I'd suppressed from the last argument would also come up in this one. So it would just compound on top of one another until in the end the relationship would fully break down. And then the pattern would start again. I would go into chasing, I would go into codependency, I would go into obsession. I was really stuck in these patterns. I would go into patterns of trying to manifest him back. And when he did come back, I would feel so relieved that I would not discuss anything with him of how the relationship broke down, how things were going to change, how I was going to change, how I wanted him to change, what my needs were, what my boundaries were. Nothing like that was ever discussed. And then inevitably we would find ourselves in that pattern once again. So if you are finding yourself in an on-off relationship with your specific person, maybe it's an ex, one of the big things that I want to focus on in today's video is the pattern of chasing, because this chasing pattern actually affects you in such a profound way. And the chasing actually sends a message to your subconscious mind that you're not good enough, that you're not a priority, that they're better than you. And you are really depleting your own self-concept when you are going into chasing, because they're up here and you're down here. And we want to really break this pattern, because with the chasing pattern in terms of manifestation, I mean, even the chasing pattern energetically is not helping you. It feels like temporarily that it will help you, but it's not, because when you're chasing energetically, they're pulling further and further and further away. So what we want to try and do is break that pattern so that you can start actually healing yourself, so that you can actually look at what's going on and why this pattern is happening in the first place. Because when there is a breakup or a relationship has broken down, you on a one-track mind of I need this person back right now because I'm in pain and I don't want to be in pain. I can't sit with this pain anymore, and this is the only person that's going to stop this. So I'm going to do whatever it takes to get that person back. And we want to try and break this because it's not helping you, it's not healthy, and all you are doing is abandoning yourself. So this fear of abandonment that you have, that you've projected onto this person who's not here anymore, you're only really rejecting yourself and you're abandoning yourself because you're chasing somebody else. And we want to shift the lens back onto us so that we don't abandon ourselves. Somebody else's perceived abandonment is only really a reflection of how much we abandon ourselves. And when we can realize that it's that, and when we can see it as a mirror, and we can see, well, actually, you know, I've never really been there for myself, I've never really shown up for myself, we know exactly where to heal, because anxious attached people do tend to self-abandon for a relationship. And that's not to say that other attachment styles don't do this, but it is more prominent in anxiously attached people. And this is something with a bit of work that can absolutely be healed. And I can guarantee you, once you can learn how to be there for yourself, and once you can learn to show up for yourself and trust yourself, somebody leaving you is not going to have the same effect. It's not going to fill you with that terror of that person not being there anymore. You're actually going to know that you will be okay because you are going to be there for you. The chasing pattern, what might this look like? It might look like over texting. It might look like getting in touch with somebody. It might look like, if you've been blocked on one platform, messaging them on another. It might be speaking to that person's friends. And energetically, it might be over visualizing. It might be over affirming. These are energetically ways that you have got your foot on somebody's neck. So we want to try and break those. And I know it's scary when you're in that situation and you really want this person back. If somebody tells you to stop doing techniques, it's like, ooh, no, I need to do them because otherwise they're not going to come back. I just want you to try and drop techniques for just a couple of weeks and see how you feel. And let's see how you feel when you are solely focused on you. And the first belief that I want you to work on is that this is the only person that can meet my needs, because this is a belief that is underpinning a lot of the actions that you're undertaking. This belief that my needs can only be met by this person, when actually you are solely responsible for meeting your own needs, and you can meet your own needs. In fact, it's incredibly empowering to meet your own needs. So what would happen in my own relationship? It would get into conflict. I would try and say my piece. I would try and explain how I felt. But because my partner was dismissive avoidant, and as we know with dismissive avoidant individuals, they don't like to talk about feelings. They don't like problems. They don't like seeing their partner as not perfect. So the patterns that my partner would have is that he would stonewall, or he would ignore. He would go to lengths of not speaking to me for long periods of time because there had been an argument. He was incredibly conflict averse. And this would really trigger my fear of abandonment. And I would then go into chasing. I would then go into apologizing for things that weren't necessarily my fault. I would take full responsibility for what had happened, even though it was a two-way street. And what this actually did over time was it really, really depleted my own self-concept. I would think that I wasn't good enough. I would feel lucky that he would have me in his life. I looked at him as on the pedestal. He was fully up there. And I was just looking up at him like I wasn't worthy of him. And it caused so much pain and anxiety. It just had to stop. The last time we broke up, I'm going back 2.5 years ago now, I committed to breaking these patterns because I knew they weren't serving me. I knew that it wasn't actually improving the relationship, but I committed myself to not chasing this person ever again. And I didn't, not even energetically. I allowed myself to not want him. And I allowed myself to purely work on me and look at why I was chasing somebody in the first place. What about me did I think was not good enough and not worthy enough that I didn't believe that I could have this person without the arguments that we were having, without feeling that I was less than? What codependent patterns did I have that I had to break? So I had to stop people pleasing. I had to stop abandoning my own needs. And even when we did get back together, when there was conflict, I stuck to that. I stopped people pleasing. I took space when I wanted to take space. I wasn't telling him what I thought he needed to hear anymore. And I would literally say, I'm taking space right now because I need to be able to sit with and process what's going on. And this was far, far, far removed to what I was like before, because I was so clingy. I would do anything to make sure that he didn't leave me. And I would feel so desperate and so hurt because I had attached my own value to a relationship. I didn't know who I was outside this relationship. So all of that had to change. And what that involved me doing was really digging deep into what my own trauma and what my own patterns were. And I do have a self-study course out right now. I'll link it in the description box below, which gives you everything that I did to move towards more secure so that these patterns were gone. These patterns didn't exist anymore because I was secure now. And I knew no matter what that I would be okay. And there were times where I thought, well, this isn't going to work. I need to get in touch. I need to cling more. It was just my subconscious mind trying to protect me against abandonment. But once I'd actually sat with the abandonment and realised that I would be okay anyway, that fear became less of a motivator for me to continue these destructive patterns that I had. And even now, when there's conflict, it's dealt with in a completely different way. It's very short-lived, it's easily resolved, and we can resolve it together. And what actually happened with my partner when I stopped these patterns was that, yeah, he would try and continue the patterns for a short time after, but because I wasn't feeding into them and I wasn't responding to them, he had to shift. He had to change, and he did that all on his own. That did not need me to go in and try and fix him. I had to accept that for the time being, this is how he is, but he will learn and he will change just the same as I changed. And that is exactly what happened. We both changed. So now when conflict arises, it's not as destructive. It doesn't equal the end of the relationship anymore. It's something that's quite easily resolved. So stopping those patterns of chasing was probably one of the top things that I did that really improved the relationship. It improved my own well-being, and I stopped depleting my own self-esteem because of it. And you can do the same if you can stop feeding into those patterns, because that is all that they are. They are just subconscious patterns to protect you from a fear that you have. So I hope you found that video useful. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments below and I will do my best to answer them, but I will see you in the next video.